In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at and testing the all-new Foxeer camera. This is the Foxeer Falkor 2. However, if you take a look down here, we see it's an HS1231 sized camera. It's a pretty big camera. It's meant to go on the bigger frames. It's not a micro, it's not a mini, it's not a nano. So keep that in mind when purchasing this. So if your frame only takes a mini or a micro, this will not fit. This will only fit into frames that have the full-fledged camera size HS1177 type mounting set up for them. So keep that in mind. Now, what they're claiming here is quite a lot. They're claiming very good low light performance. It is also using a rolling shutter, and it is using a CMOS sensor inside. A lot of cameras are going CMOS. Some people prefer the CCD better. So before testing the latency, let's go ahead and see what they provide in the packaging here. So as you can tell, the packaging is always really great. The camera will always be protected very well, which is something really nice. Here we see we have one of these older type style mounts here, and I really like the wires that Foxeer uses better than Runcam. They are both silicone, both Runcam and Foxeer, but these are slightly a bit more stiff, so you could kind of, roll them and tuck them and expect them to stay in that position, which is really nice and really useful. So I personally do kind of like that. And also another thing that I like that Foxeer does is that it separates the OSD from the normal camera input in the power, because it just makes it better. So you can just bring in your little OSD menu and then just change and then unplug it and you're good to go. You don't have to mess around with this. I really like that. I think it keeps it overall much cleaner. And another thing is, especially if you have a flight control that can control the OSD on these, it'll be compatible with a simple just plug and play, which is also something really great here. So they do give us the screws we're going to need, and there's 3 mounting areas here we could use. Actually, we could only, I think, use 2. The top one might not be used. So for the mounting, we could only use the bottom 2 here, as you can tell right there. So keep that in mind as well. And it also has an OSD on board, which will give you your voltage. So if you had some sort of a FPV airplane and you needed to know your battery voltage because your flight controller, or you're not running a flight controller, this will be able to do just that with the V-Sense right here. So for example, they actually provide us with 2 wires. So the way that you would get your battery voltage to display on this camera right here, on the on-screen display that's on the camera, is if we take this connector right here, obviously it goes into another connector, but you're going to want to trim that, which it's kind of like a dual purpose wire that they just prepare for you, and you trim it to as you please. Now what you take a look at is the V-Sense here. Now the V-Sense is the last one, and it would be that purple line. This would go to exactly where your Xt60's red wire would be connected that's coming from your battery. So for example, here's my battery, and you just follow the battery, basically follow this red line where it connects and where it goes into your quadcopter. That's where you want to run and connect also that purple or pinkish line right here to get your battery voltage. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's going to help you if you have nothing. It is a really great little feature, and obviously which can also be turned off. Now another cool little feature of this is it can be both 4x3 and 16x9. You could choose whatever one you want. And not only that, the input voltage is 5 to 40 volts, which is something you kind of want now. But again, I always recommend to not give it battery voltage. Always give it from a dedicated regulator, which is basically 5 volts, 9 volts, 8 volts, whatever you have that's a regulator is highly recommended you feed it from that, because these cameras are more susceptible to noise than video transmitters. And it could be an absolute nightmare where you think the transmitter is the one with the noise, but it could actually be the camera. So and again, this is why I always recommend you set this up on a regulator. So, and again, this is not a perfect world. They are claiming to have very good low light performance, but it also does show in the latency testing, which we're going to take a look at right now. So let's go ahead and pick up the latency testing and take a look at it. All right, guys. So how is the latency? Well, the latency didn't do that good as well, at least as some of the previous ones that I've tested from them. They're cheaper, actually. Their cheaper line is much, much faster, which was last one was around 2 milliseconds, which is pretty insane. I'll have some of those linked down below. This one is claiming to do a lot, yet also the size is bigger, but I kind of just, don't know what it's really aimed for, maybe night light performance. But the latency on these were, with the LED turning on, roughly between 20 to 23.5 milliseconds. it's still within the good zone. Under 25 milliseconds is the great zone. Above 30 to 35 milliseconds is the no-go zone. So under 25 milliseconds, it kept it there pretty stable, and it was always a pretty static 20 to 23.5 milliseconds. So it's okay. It's not bad. It's kind of like the old run cams that we were using before. So in that perspective, it's not a big problem. However, obviously there's faster, and there's even cheaper, and there's even lighter. So the trade-off is maybe in the image quality, because they're stating that it has really great image quality. It is also using a rolling shutter, so it is somewhat susceptible to jelloing every once in a while. So keep that in mind as well. Now, when the LED was turning off, which is kind of simulating low light performance, kind of, or drastic scene changes, if you might say, we were getting between 26 to 29 milliseconds. So, but still under the 30 milliseconds. But I usually prefer not to like a camera that's above 25 milliseconds, but it's still within the 30 milliseconds, which should be okay. But again, after 35 is when you really feel it, and it really does hinder your performance. But overall, it tested within the upper safe limits, we should say, of what a FPV camera should do, especially in FPV drones. In FPV wings, it's a whole different story. Maybe that's what they're aiming this for. It is kind of on the expensive side, to be honest, though. And maybe it's the image quality or something. So yeah, and it is nice that you could choose between 16:9 and 4:3 as well, which is also a really nice little addition. OSD and the voltage sensing is also a really great thing to have. And again, everything's linked down below. I'll link you also the cheaper variants that were just released, the micro and the mini, which had like 2 millisecond latency, out of this world latency, which are really great. And again, I haven't even seen the video quality or the video image of this, so yeah, I can't answer anything into that. I'm just doing the latency testing here. And I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section, and come join my Patreon. I do a ton of giveaways, like a ton of giveaways. So I'm going to be doing some crazy giveaways the month of December, and new Patreons get separate giveaways, and they're also premium, obviously, but you have a higher chance of winning. And I do like 4 to 5 to 6 giveaways a month. And yeah, come join, and I'll see you in our next one, guys. Peace out.